Beaird, Director of Adult Services at the Norman Williams Public Library in Woodstock, Vermont. And I want to welcome you and thank you so much for attending our first virtual book launch. A little bit of housekeeping first. We will be offering many more virtual events, as in the Great Cooks of Woodstock, rapid reviews, a trivia night, and more author readings through Bookstock, the literary festival. Please check our Facebook page and our website to get more details. Our presenters tonight welcome questions or comments from you. Please submit your comments using the chat button or the Q&A button that's at the bottom of your screen. Meg Brazil, who is our Director of Programming, and I will be monitoring those comments. So tonight, we're extremely excited to present the launch of Sustainable Kitchen, Recipes and Inspiration for Plant-Based, Planet-Conscious Meals by Heather Wolfe and Jaynie McCloskey, both of whom who live and work locally. Jaynie is in Heartland and Heather is in Bridgewater. The book is now available for purchase and we encourage you to buy locally. The Yankee Bookshop in Woodstock has signed copies for you. And if you live outside the Woodstock area, I know the Yankee Bookshop would be happy to ship those same or some autographed books to you as well. But of course, other vendors will have it for purchase as well. So as we all know, there are ups and downs in every situation. So for instance, this is not really a good time to launch a book. However, the upside is that this is the perfect time to launch this particular book. It's more than a cookbook. It's a philosophy of life. It's about taking the time to see wonder and all those things around us and reminding us of the joy of taking care of each other as well as the planet. It's a respite from all the angst and anger of the world. So come for the tips on canning, composting, and delicious recipes, and stay for the wisdom and promise of healing through the comfort and connection that you will find in this book. So I want to welcome Heather and Jaynie, and I want to ask that you begin this evening with introducing yourselves, giving some background about how you met, maybe what led you each to your passion about cooking, and how did the idea for this cookbook come about. So if we were in the library, this is the time that I would go sit down and give you the floor. And because I can't do that in Zoom land, I'm going to turn my video and mute my button off, or turn my mute button off. But I will nevertheless be here with you, and I'm going to pop back in one time or another. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kathy. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Heather, and Jaynie, you can say hi too.
Hi, I'm Jaynie.
And we just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. This is a celebratory moment for us, and we of course would have loved to be with you in person, signing books and sharing samples of recipes with you to mark the moment, but you know, in this format, we are able to welcome a lot more people than we would otherwise. We sold out tonight with 100 people almost registering to be with us. And when we have people from all over their places, so someone said hello from British Columbia. I know there's people from Arizona and Montana and Pennsylvania and Ohio with us tonight. So that is special, even if we can't be together in person. And we are using kind of new technology to us tonight. So this is Zoom webinar, We cannot see any of your faces. We can see your names in the participant list, and we can see your chats as they come through. So that is how we're going to interact with you, and we do want this to be informal and interactive time. Your questions, your comments are welcome. We're going to ask you some questions and invite you to chat in, yeah, feel free to put yours in. Meg and Kathy will be monitoring the chat for us as we kind of go along. So as Kathy said, she had a few questions that she wanted us to kind of share with you. And to get started, you know, we're going to share our backgrounds and our passions and what led to the book. We have heard that people who pre-ordered the book are starting actually to get it. They got it ahead of schedule. So I am just curious, who in the room tonight has actually physical hands on their book? So if you just want to throw in the chat like me or I do, we would love to just hear from people like that actually have it already. That would be fun to see. So I'm going to start sharing my background, then Jaynie will share hers as well. So for me, it's really exciting to launch this book in the community that I have called home my entire life, in partnership with the library of my childhood and the library that I bring my girls to now. My roots run deep, not only in the community, but also in sustainability and in the kitchen. I was influenced at a very early age by my dad, Gary Hawks. Hi, Dad, I just saw you bought 2 copies. Who's been a vocal advocate for environmental issues his entire life. He got me outside gardening and doing chicken chores and composting. My mom invited me into the kitchen. Hi, Mom, happy birthday today, Mom. Very special day. So my mom invited me into the kitchen to help with homemade meals when I needed, you know, a 2-step stool to be up at the counter height with her. And my secondary education here in Woodstock, it was so influential. So I just want to thank all the educators in the room. You make such a difference in people's lives. The impacts have ripples throughout a lifetime. And so in 9th grade health class, I wrote a report called Adolescent Nutrition. And this report launched me into my career as a dietitian and just brought a passion for nutrition and health. And then my junior year in high school, I took a You're a Chef class, and that is where I made my very first cookbook. So really, sustainability and the kitchen has always been a significant piece of my life. You know, even if the nutrition pyramid has changed a lot, it's not even a pyramid anymore. We're in a plate, but you know, I'm going to have Jaynie share a picture with you of me making pasta for this cookbook. And that was in 1997. On the left-hand side in You're a Chef class. Who knew that 23 years later, I would again be making pasta for a cookbook, but this time with whole wheat flour. So, Jaynie?
Thank you for sharing, Heather. So Heather and I have very different backgrounds, as you would guess, being 2 different people. But my, childhood I had a lot of very positive experiences around the table with my family, but didn't have that kind of out in the garden and just strong connection with sustainability and things like that. And it was later in my adult life that when I started cooking for myself and really just fell in love with cooking, really just not only the preparing food and eating it, but just the experience all around. And I'll actually share that more about that a little later in my inspiration. But My other side of my kind of background is my art and design background that I brought with me to this book. And that was, always since a kid, have loved drawing pictures. And when I was a little bit older, as a teenager, I wanted to be a designer, and really fell in love with that from looking at books. I would look at design books, and I just loved layout and design in that way. Then I went to art school and kind of explored a lot of drawing and painting and things like that, but came back to design, felt like I wanted to kind of combine the two things. And but then that was at the same time that I fell in love with cooking, and just really wanted to combine all of those passions together. So that's kind of where my background comes into all of this. And a kind of fun story that I'll also share a slide. When I had my first child and he was eating food for the first time, I wanted to also, having a baby is a lot of work, not a lot of free time to make art. So I started this little fun daily drawing activity you see on the left. Just every day I would draw what he would try, and this was a lot later in the process. He actually ate this stuff. He was a very foodie baby because I would just fed him a lot of vegetables. It was also this kind of accountability for myself to just keep whole foods and make sure I was trying to, feeding him healthy foods. And then eventually at the end of that project, I took some of the drawings that I made and made his little first birthday party. It was a theme about, it was a farmer's market theme, as you see on this other side. So I'll show you some illustrations that I did later in the book that makes this feel really full circle for me.
So Kathy asked how we know each other, how we got connected on this project. And because I don't have internet at home, I'm actually coming to you live tonight from the place where I first met Jaynie, Tassville Chapel Mennonite Fellowship. I was on the pastoral search team, and we had a candidate coming, Steve, and he was going to interview, and his family came along, wife Jaynie, son Jacob. They were vegetarians, so being the flexitarian and the foodie that I am, I organized a potluck to have during our interview time that featured local in-season plant-based foods. And so it must have gone well because Steve accepted the offer to be our pastor, and Jaynie and I have created this cookbook together.
Yes. Definitely. I remember, I believe Fiddleheads were part of that, which was a very Vermont specific thing. It was a really fun night. Another thing that Kathy was asking us about was our passions around plant-based and planet-conscious cooking. And similar to our backgrounds being very different, our passions come from different places, but came together really well with this book. So what I will share is kind of a personal story around where it will show where my passion lies. So when I was, it was 2014, I was recently pregnant for the first time, and I was working for a design agency on the Jersey Shore. And that was an extremely hectic job. I was working 50 plus hours a week and commuting about 2.5 hours a day. So that would be a little more than an hour one way. And it was just really, really a difficult time. Not a lot of time with my husband and to make meals. And then started being a mother, and that's a huge transition in and of itself. and wasn't diagnosed till later, but was diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety during that time. So it just kept kind of snowballing, and it was just a really, really difficult time for me. And when I was diagnosed, I was going to be on medication, and I tried one kind and had a really, really bad reaction. And even since have tried other medicines too, and just always have a really negative reaction. So I don't want this next part that I say to sound anything against taking medication for mental health, because I'm all for it. My body did not respond well. So my doctor was like, well, one other alternative that we could try is you could be really strict with a plant-based diet and regular exercise. And so I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. Since it's like, I don't have any other options really, like I'm gonna just really commit. And it did not take long, honestly, but just really experienced a tremendous amount of well-being from that experience, and have taken that with me forever now. So my passion is, around the healing and, well-being that comes with eating plant-based.
And, for me, I would say my passion for plant-based eating really developed when I was in my nutrition training. So when I left my childhood home and kind of went out on my own, had my kitchen and my autonomy with my own food choices, and just discovering in Burlington and Boston different ethnicities of foods, trying new things, and found that there were just a lot of different and delicious ways to prepare plant-based dishes, and they were tastier to me, more interesting. They were cheaper and healthier than meat-centric meals. So that just kind of fueled this lifelong passion now for eating plant-based. It wasn't until more recently that I actually connected environmental sustainability background that I had with plant-based eating and diet. So that connection emerged from my faith background. I am a Mennonite. I grew up at Bethany Mennonite, and I'm currently a member at Tassville Chapel. And so in my faith, I believe in a creator that created all things good, and I feel that we're called to live in peace. I'm called to live in peace with the world around me, and with creation. That includes creation and being caretakers of creation. So it grieves me deeply when I see the brokenness in the world around me. Here at church, I have spearheaded some creation care initiatives, and kind of become active within our faith community around kind of environmental stewardship. So when we look at all these different initiatives, going solar and planting gardens and insulating our building, all of which we have done here at church, what's impressed me is the impact food choices have is enormous. And I don't know if anybody out there, feel free to chat if you've done this, look at your carbon footprints and how huge food and diet is. I think when they look at solutions for climate change and slowing global warming, some of the top 3 are food waste reduction and shifting towards a plant-based eating are like most powerful actions. So it's just kind of constellation for me as like this passion for nutrition and health and environment and faith that all kind of aligns to this this one way of kind of eating and this lifestyle for me. So what brought it all home, I would say, kind of like Jaynie, would be having kids. Right, so I went from kind of quietly living my simple lifestyle to becoming a vocal advocate for change, because their future depends on it. The book has, you know, Jaynie and I dedicated it on the page, and I'm just gonna read you mine. My dedication is to the generations after me who will inherit this earth, including daughters Nora, Helen, and Esther. When Jaynie asked me if I would write a cookbook together with her, I said yes, for them.
So right off of that, with me asking Heather where this idea kind of came from that Kathy was asking us about, it could be a really long story, because this idea may have been, you know, our whole lives in the making, really. But I guess the real point where I felt like where we feel like this really took root was our friend Rachel, who is actually in the chat, and I saw, Rachel, you wrote something, but she organized, yeah, Rachel Eversole, there she is. So she invited me and 2 other women to come together and just kind of talk through what we want out of our lives, what kind of dreams do we want to start pursuing, and to just like give each other space to talk that all out. And so we would meet, I think it was once a week for 2 hours each week, and it was a really wonderful time, honestly. And I encourage anyone to start a group like this, because having a goal and knowing it's something that you really want can really give you a lot of purpose and well-being even with that. But so I talked a lot through, you know, what I've told you, that, you know, I have this art and design desire. I love food, and, you know, what it's done for me to eat plant-based, and just trying to connect all these things. And through that process, Rachel suggested that I talk to Heather, because Heather is a nutritionist and actually had just released a cookbook within her workplace for her clients, basically, right, Heather? So it just seemed like, I mean, I would have had to spend years probably building up, you know, a following and things like that, but Heather was like ready to go. She was like already doing all of that, and when I talked to her, it just really made sense. I was, you know, proposed the idea, and she loved the idea, but she also had her own ideas that she brought into it with the sustainability part. And the cookbook has become, because of Heather, a very comprehensive resource, including all kinds of scratch cooking that I couldn't have even conceived of initially. So and then with that, kind of where the kind of purpose of the book has a lot to do with the idea as well. And what kind of happened with that was, when I first, you know, my husband, what like Heather describes, was hired as a pastor, and we were both new to the Mennonite world. And one thing I heard about all the time once I was learning about Mennonites was Mennonite cookbooks. Like, people love Mennonite cookbooks, even outside of the Mennonite world. And it's kind of like Amish cooking, you know, this like very scratch cooking kind of thing. And so to go back to my other story about when things were really, really difficult for me, and I had postpartum depression and all of that, I also, when we first moved here, I got pregnant with our second child, Silas. And I really wanted a way to keep that like wellness, so that I, you know, could maybe avoid postpartum depression again. It's very common to get it again if you've had it before. And so I thought, you know, why not grab one of these Mennonite cookbooks and like cook out of that? Like, limitations are really helpful for me. I get overwhelmed by like the endless internet with recipes, sources. So I'm like, I'll grab one of these cookbooks and like have that as my resource. And really none of the cookbooks, so the publisher is Herald Press, who we published through. And really at the time, their cookbooks didn't have a really robust, healthy cooking resource, like didn't have resources that were that. So I saw this gap and thought, you know, maybe Herald Press would, you know, if we present this to them, they would be open to this idea. So it was really just like everything coming together in all kinds of directions. It was really surreal even to think about that, how it all just kind of played together. And so yeah, they obviously said yes, and here we are.
And I see a question coming in about how do we develop recipes and favorite recipes, and yes, we will answer that. That's a great question in just a little bit. Thanks, Marcia. So to build on what Jaynie was saying around kind of purpose for the cookbook, we really kind of, as we were developing our front matter, which is where we offer kind of a philosophy for eating. It's built on 3 pillars is what we kind of distilled it down to. So what that was really important to us was around health. So health of body, kind of physical health, the health of your soul, kind of spirituality, connection with food, and then the planet health, kind of environmental sustainability. So 3 pillars of health kind of undergird that our philosophy of eating, and then we wanted it to package it in a way that kind of met certain standards that we had set for the book. You know, we wanted it to be this standalone resource. So like Jaynie said, like I just want one resource that my go-to, like all I can trust. There's healthy recipes in there. It tells me what I need in my pantry for staples and equipment. It's got cooking charts for how long do I need to pressure cook or boil my dry beans or whole grains, or instructions on how to can or how to compost. It is all here in this one resource. So again, you know, not having internet at home, right? I can't just kind of go through blogs and internet and kind of look through things. I need it to be in one space. And but not having, you know, lots of different books and lots of resources, I feel like you can just disconnect from having too much, right? That overwhelm that Jaynie was talking about, and really connect more deeply with just one thing and be intentional. So we wanted to be a standalone comprehensive resource. We wanted simplicity. So simplicity in having one resource, but also not too many ingredients, not overly complicated to cook, yet carefully crafted to be nutritionally balanced and delicious, right? We are busy moms. We had Jaynie had 2 really little kids. I had 3 really little kids while we were doing this. And we wanted our families to like what we were making for them so that they would be nourished. And then the third kind of standard we had set was we wanted this book to equip people to be self-sufficient and be able to teach them how to make their own stuff, their own staples, right? That can decrease packaging waste, save money, taste fresher, that realize it's easy to make tortillas or your homemade butter, and bonus, you have the byproduct of buttermilk that you can then put in our pancakes. So just really kind of making it self-sufficient was an important piece for us as we developed this cookbook. I think, yes, it takes time to cook this way, but it invites a slowing down that, you know, in an intentionality that we think, you know, we all can benefit from. So a work process was one other question Kathy just asked us about, so I'll touch on that quickly. This is about 2.5 years later. We had our pitch to Herald Press in the spring of 2018. And kind of a division of labor has been another thing some people have been asking us about. I think it's been a beautiful collaboration between us, we have a similar vision for the book and had complementary skills, each kind of valuing each other's expertise that we brought. But we also brought both, unique life experiences and recipes to the table. I took lead on kind of nutrition and sustainability and organizing recipe development, and Jaynie just brought the book to life with beautiful design and photography and her original artwork that you'll get to see shortly. So, we had deadlines from our publisher, and then we created our own and internal timelines that just keep moving things along, staying on track. We would meet often out in places, so because we had kids in tow often, the children's room at Norman Williams Library was a go-to spot. It was awesome to be able to convene there and work on some deadlines and get recipes sent off to testers or meet a deadline with the publisher while the kids were playing in the background there. And when we had time where it was just the two of us, we could go to the Woodstock Inn and have a cup of tea and sit in the reading room, and that was lovely as well. So it was great. What a great community to create a cookbook in. So Jaynie, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about actually like creating and designing.
Yeah, and I will share, I saw someone asked about what are the basically table of contents. I'm going to share the screen for a bit and show you that because I have that set up. So yeah, I'll just kind of run through this front matter is what you call it, the front section of the cookbook. We obviously have an introduction and then our kind of main points where we kind of share this philosophy is health, connection, and planet, which Heather just went through, and nutrition. And then we give a lot of resources on what to have in your kitchen. Oops. And you can see down there at the bottom, which would be called the back matter. We have meal planning information, an equivalence chart, which I'll show you in a little bit. Just more notes that are helpful for some of the recipes, canning techniques, kitchen techniques, and extra notes. So as you can see, there's a lot in there. And you can see the recipe kind of categories there too. And so on that kind of note of putting the book together, and so usually authors don't have anything to do with the design of the book. It's very rare that it happens. Another thing about Herald Press is they have more recently been putting a lot more photography in the books, but what Heather and I both really wanted was we wanted really good photography. And I actually didn't know that much about photography. I'd taken a photography class in college, and I mean, as an art major, I learned different things like the rules of thirds and things like that, but didn't have a professional camera. So I proposed to the publisher that part of my authorial contribution would be the photography. And they loved that idea, and so I went out and bought a camera and learned how to, get comfortable with it. And but then also I asked if I could design the book. I mean, being a designer and just having this dream to create something like a book has been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And so I asked if I could be contracted to do it, and I gave them some samples of what I imagined it could look like, and they said yes. So there wasn't really a lot of pushback, which was really exciting to be able to, have that opportunity. And I'll show you kind of, so I showed you earlier the little drawings I did when my son Jacob was first starting to eat table foods, and then how I made it his birthday party, and it kind of came full circle with the kind of illustration style that I chose for the book. So I'll share this now. So this is a fun equivalence chart, and it's a full spread in the book, and it just shows you like what 1 clove of garlic is as a teaspoon. It's a half a teaspoon, and how much tablespoons of lime juice come from 1 lime. It's typically 2 tablespoons. So it's a fun little resource for people, and a total fun for me to draw all of this stuff. So that's a little bit about the design kind of element that we were really fortunate to be part of. I see a lot of questions coming in. I'm wondering if we should.
Yeah, a lot of great comments. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, design photography are fabulous. Jaynie, do you want to bring up the picture, like some of the food photography, talk about a few recipes? I heard some people want to hear about kind of our recipe development.
So yeah, we could talk about recipe development. And we have, I will share this photo now of our recipe testers.
As far as recipes go, we had different ones that we would kind of create and bring to the table, and a lot of it was, you know, in the beginning, like I've got a whole collection of recipes, Jaynie's got her recipes that she brings, and we kind of just like looked at them and started putting things together. And so, Jaynie, do you want to share kind of the taco story with everyone, like how the cauliflower taco came to be?
Yeah, so it came a little bit later, like we had our initial list, and one of the recipes, 2 actually of the recipes, no, it could even actually be 3. But first she had this cabbage slaw that she had, and it was so good. It's like lime and cilantro and red or any kind of cabbage you can put in there, and carrots, and it just tasted really good on this wrap that she had, this tofu peanut sauce wrap. And I had tacos before with some slaw like this, and then I always make a lot of Mexican food in my house. It's one of the easiest things. But I like to roast cauliflower and put those in the tacos. And so I thought, maybe we could put together the cauliflower and the slaw. And then I also used her refried beans recipe as part of it. And the tortillas is also part of it. Of course, you can use any tortillas, but, and then added a little chipotle drizzle on it. So it was a really fun kind of like, oh, we can put all these things together and it's one of my favorite recipes now in the cookbook.
Mm-hmm. And an insider note for all of you, that was a contender for the cover recipe. So so I'll hold up, I don't know if it'll be easy to see, but this is kind of the cauliflower taco and total mashup. It's a beautiful example of how Jaynie and I work together. So I had the whole wheat tortilla recipe and the cabbage slaw recipe, which are standalone recipes, and then and the refried beans we collaborated on, and you know, Jaynie did the mayo, and then you can see maybe it's hard in this light, but we have something unique about the cookbook is, you know, we tell you kind of where we cross-reference a lot because we invite you to cook a lot. So we will tell you like, hey, you know, make your own chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, and make your own mayonnaise. And then we will invite you to do that and tell you how to do that if you want, or you cannot. So you can go as deep as you want and take small steps to it, to making change too. So that's a super fun one. Another fun story, we have our peanut sauce. So both Jaynie and I had great peanut sauces that we brought to the table, and we couldn't decide which one of them to do. We both liked each other's, but we both really liked our own. And we tried to make a mashup and make one out of kind of combining the 2 recipes, and still weren't sure. So we sent it out to recipe testers. You know, one recipe tester group got mine, and then the other got Jaynie's, and eventually it was a recipe tester who decided it for us. So someone said, hey, something's missing about this, maybe lime? And the other recipe group had one with lime. So that decided it. We're like, we're gonna go with the one that has lime for the cookbook. So Sarah from Texas, if you're out there, thank you for making a decision when we were really struggling. And I just want to thank all of our testers. I know we've got many with us tonight. If you want to chat, if you are a tester, go ahead and chat what your favorite recipe was, or a memorable recipe from that time. It would be awesome to share with the group. And we had a really, especially in hindsight, special moment. This is a barn party that we had in October of 2018, so almost 2 years ago, with our recipe testers. So they were coming to the end of their recipe testing time, and we invited them to bring their favorite dishes together and share that and celebrate with us. And we had a photographer there who was with us all weekend to do the lifestyle photography for the cookbook. It was really a marathon weekend. So we kind of liken it to, we had a rehearsal dinner the night before at my house where I cooked 30 recipes from the cookbook, which has 143 total. But so I made 30 recipes for that evening. And then the next day we had the wedding reception here at the barn, sort of for the cookbook in a way. So now, we are unable to have a celebration like this. We had no idea that we would be here in this time at that time. So it's, in hindsight, a really special memory for us to have celebrated with our testers in this way. So I think we're going to talk about inspiration. Someone had a question of where do you get your inspirations for recipes? And I get mine primarily from nature. I am a really seasonal cook. Being the gardener that I am, I look at the edible landscape around me. And so even in the winter, I'm pulling out dried black beans and kidney beans that I've grown in the summer, and tomatoes that I've canned, and barley that we've threshed, and combining those together to make a beautiful soup with carrots and onions that are hearty in the root cellar. So eating with nature is really important in my recipe development. Another thing that is fun is my favorite restaurant meals. When I go and I oh, this is wonderful, I kind of deconstruct it in my mind and using all the senses of taste and smell and sight, and then recreate it in my kitchen and work on it until I get something. I'm it's so satisfying to have Singapore style street noodles, which is my favorite Asian takeout. I can make that at home and it tastes fresher and better, and it's cheaper, it's fabulous, I can have it anytime. Farmers Market in Woodstock, love them. Their bow tie peanut salad inspired me to make my own version. It's in the cookbook. Dana's Restaurant by the Gorge, their maple walnut French toast, totally recreated that. It's in the cookbook. So really, really fun to create recipes.
Yeah, and my inspiration, I spent a lot of time looking things up online. Even in college, just spending a lot of time on Pinterest while I was riding the bus to school. And eventually that got really overwhelming. And I ended up getting a CSA from this local farm, and ended up really liking the kind of boundaries that a CSA provided. It was seasonal, of course, whatever they had available was what I got. And it challenged me to, cook from that. I had a ton of Japanese eggplants one time, and a ton of kale another time. And I had to figure out ways to use it. And so I think it was really being in that kind of I have to use this, what can I do? And then looking up recipes from that kind of abundance narrowed it down for me. And another thing was there's a lot of recipes out there that aren't, the photography might be really good, but they not every recipe should be trusted online. And so also with time, I just kind of narrowed down who could I trust kind of online. And I don't really have a comprehensive list of my favorites. One food blogger that I really like is, her blog is called Pinch of Yum. And there's another one called The First Mess, and Love and Lemons. So those three are really, were very trusted blog sources for me. So, but again, like with that CSA, I feel like that boundary helped kind of narrow. It was a beneficial problem to have. So we are also going to be sharing 2 of the recipes with you all tonight. Well, you'll get them tomorrow, but I will show you a photo of them. So for being here tonight, you get kind of a teaser, 2 teaser recipes to try. And this is our, on the left, we have winter wheat berry salad, and I actually made it tonight, which was just to have it to show you guys. But and then Heather has these are the energy balls.
Yeah, so this, I don't know if it'll show me while you're screen sharing or not, Jaynie. So the energy balls here, these are family favorite. They are always found in our freezer because everyone in our entire household takes one every day to work and school. I think sometimes Esther, our youngest, just lives on them. But they're right there, whole grain oats and fruits and nuts and seeds. So I feel good about that. It's okay if that's mostly what she wants to live on some days. So yeah, fun to share those with you. They'll come via email midday tomorrow. So from Meg. And just before we open it up to kind of see if there's other questions, or maybe we can see like there are, I want to just kind of read to you a section of the cookbook from our introduction, kind of an abridged version. And I see Meg asked, are those raw? Yes, the energy balls, it's a no cook. So it's fabulous, so easy to make. Kids love it, right? You just kind of mix and stir and mush them together in balls, or you can pat them in a pan and make bars, totally. Yep. A lot of our recipes are versatile. We give a lot of flexibility to use ingredients that you have on hand or different ways to do it. So you can do it by hand or food processor. We really kind of want to work with you and your kitchen and what your resources are as we created the cookbook, not assuming that everybody has the same tastes or the same setup. So I will read to you from the intro section, and the says, this cookbook will empower you to make more foods yourself rather than buying packaged products. Cook using local, seasonally available foods. Find flexibility in recipes. Decrease food waste using all edible parts of food, including tops, stems, seeds, and skins. How to compost any scraps that can't be used. Conserve energy by not preheating your oven when cooking. That's right, you don't have to preheat. It's a waste of energy most of the time. That was a revelation for us. We were pretty deep into developing recipes when we had this aha moment about, wait, why do you have to preheat? And we rewrote a lot of recipes. So that's another insider tip. We basically redid the cookbook to not use your oven preheating. We hope the cookbook will empower you to expand your palate, creating this collection of recipes that exposes you to flavors from around the globe, along with plenty of familiar North American favorites and a wide variety of plant-based proteins, so you can explore less familiar options and grow in knowledge and skill with our robust sections in the front matter and the back matter. And we hope that in spending time with this cookbook, you'll be inspired to eat a plant-based diet, to spend time in the kitchen discovering the joy of preparing nourishing foods, contemplate how your food choices matter, connect with creation through cooking, be curious about food and get to know what you're eating, considering each recipe as an edible story. Share what you've learned with friends and family. And we hope that you find nourishment, joy, and reward in nurturing a closer relationship with what you eat. From Sustainable Kitchen by Heather Wolfe and Jaynie McCloskey.
I think this has been so wonderful. I'm glad that you asked for some more questions. There was something about, could you talk, maybe you didn't see this, it was something about, can you talk about what a good protein meals to have? I've lost the thing, but it was something about.
It says, can you talk about recipes that provide good amounts of protein for the meal? From Mary Tompus. I may have said that last name wrong.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And in the front matter, we have the Nutrition 101, and we really talk quite a bit about what balance, creating a balanced plant-based diet, because there's a lot of conflicting nutrition information out there to sift through. We wanted to kind of distill that in an evidence-based way that was easy to understand, and it is. You do not have to work at getting protein in a plant-based diet. It's amazing if you think about the different food groups that whole grains have protein in them, vegetables have protein, some are really rich like legumes, nuts and seeds, egg products and dairy products if you choose to use some of those animal products. So really there is no worry in meeting protein needs, and that was something we paid attention to as we were recipe developing is are these nutritionally balanced? Because I think both of us are really kind of one pot dinners a lot of the time. So rather than the meat, the potato, the vegetable, it is the bowl, that beautiful bowl Jaynie showed you, or a skillet dish that has everything all in one. And protein adds up really quickly with plant-based eating.
Well, another thing we were wondering about is since you've got kids, I mean, I remember my kids as being very, very picky. Did you have any issues with that with them, or are they? I know that Esther lives on the balls, which has protein in it, but how are the kids responding to that? I'm sure they're happy to help you make stuff and.
Yeah. That's a key, right? Getting them in the kitchen, getting them involved, way more willing to taste if they're in the garden, if they're in the kitchen, involved. Right? And modeling is really important, right? Like, I think, parent responsibility is to determine kind of what to make and put it on the table, and the kids choose, how much, what and how much they're gonna have. But this modeling matters.
I love that picture of you and Heather. I mean, you, Heather, you in high school or wherever, learning how to do the noodles. And then there you are with Esther looking at, through watching the whole thing again. I mean, I just love how you both are passing the legacy of all of this philosophy and meditation and mindfulness on. I mean, I think that's so special.
Thank you, Kathy.
So I think somebody else, are there any thing, or did you talk about ever gluten-free or dairy-free recipes, or?
I saw that question come in also, and I had a friend recently ask me about this, and I ended up counting all of the recipes in the book, and I actually don't have the number right now, but I remember 75% of our recipes are already gluten-free or can be made gluten-free, and even the ones that can be made, that's a very small number. Like most of them are already gluten-free.
One thought is, would you define flexitarian? Somebody define
Yes.
flexitarian?
Yes. So flexitarian, it's a real terminology, just like vegetarian and vegan, right? So we know vegan is completely free of animal products, so no honey, no eggs, no dairy, no meat. Vegetarian would be not eating meat, so flesh of an animal, so no chicken, no red meat, no fish. Flexitarian is someone who eats predominantly plant-based. It's basically a flexible vegetarian. Right, so I don't cook meat at home, but if I go out and meat is being served, I may choose to have some rather than ask for special accommodations. We sometimes have too many roosters because our chickens are hatching babies all summer long, and you can't, odds are 50-50 are going to be boys, so you can't have more than one rooster in the hen house. So we will process our own surplus roosters and eat them. We feel like if we're going to eat any meat, right, we need to be in touch with that process. So flexitarian, yeah, some meat is included, but predominantly plants.
And Jaynie, I love the whole idea of the CSA thing of, you know, just getting the food. It's like some of those food shows on television, you know, where they say, open your pantry and cook something out of the pantry, you know, and so you've got this CSA and so you just figure out what to do with it. And I think that's a wonderful process and must be a lot of fun to do, a lot of creativity.
Yeah, I love the challenge.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're about to 8 o'clock. So are there any other questions or anything else that anybody wants to say? Or I just want to say again that this is an astonishingly wonderful book, so professionally done, and each page, what I do love, and maybe you've already talked about this, is that you always have something to say about whatever recipe it is. You always we're talking roasted butternut squash soup, and you say, it's a wonderful soup that uses late harvest vegetables when the weather turns colder. I mean, just every single piece of this is well thought of and beautifully done. And I'm just really impressed with you guys. Want to say again, you know, if you want to buy it locally, the Yankee Bookshop has it here in Woodstock. All other vendors, I'm sure, have it as well, and Yankee would be happy to send it. So I guess that's it. And thank you so much, and we wish you well, both of you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kathy.
Great, thanks. Be nourished.